What's going on, vinyl community? Welcome to another video with the Record Spinner. Today's video is going to be a little stroll down memory lane because 20 years ago, almost to the day that this video is going live, I went to my very first concert, and it was, of course, my favorite band, Kiss, at the Tweeter Waterfront in Camden, New Jersey on July 13th, 2004 on the band's Rock the Nation tour. This video will provide some testimonials from that day, and I have some long-lasting memories that I got from that show still in my personal collection that I'm itching to share with all of you. There's a lot to get through, so enough of the chit-chat. Let's jump into what this video is all about. I became a Kiss fan when I was 2 going on 3 years old back in 2000. VH1 was on frequently at my house, and they would run daily segments on the group's farewell tour, and everything about Kiss, between the music and the image, caught my attention and I was instantly hooked. Now, because I was so young, I didn't register the notion that this was supposedly going to be their last tour. I was just engrossed in the band to the point of obsession where I would scour flea markets for anything Kiss related, albeit merchandise or CDs, vinyl, and cassettes, and my dad would always take me to Spencer's at the local mall to get whatever new Kiss product was there. But for some reason, the idea of seeing them in concert felt almost non-realistic, and I recalled back in 2003 hearing some rumblings about a co-headline tour with Aerosmith, which ultimately was Peter Criss's last tour with the band. Kiss almost existed in superhero form in my eyes, and between loving the music and experiencing that magic as a young fan was more than enough to fulfill my Kiss fix at a young age. Flash forward to 2004, still immersed in Kiss fandom, and it was announced that Kiss was embarking on the Rock the Nation tour. Now, someone who worked at the hair salon that my mother was frequent at knew someone who worked for Harley Davidson, and they would always get free tickets to shows, one of them being the Kiss show that was coming through our area, and they all knew that I was a massive fan. And I guess there was some debate from my parents as if I would want to go, because I had never really been to a concert before. The last show that I had been to, as far as I was concerned, was Sesame Street on Ice at the old Spectrum in Philadelphia when I was like 2. They took the chance and agreed on it, and I honestly can't remember what my reaction was. That concept of seeing them still was not registering. Now, of course, I had to dress the part, so my dad and I went to Spencer's, and I picked up a shirt to wear at the show, which was my very first Kiss shirt, way before my dresser would become a sea of black like it is today. Now, while I don't have this shirt anymore, I remember what it looked like to this day. It was black with this purple and yellow design with the guys as they appeared on the Rock and Roll Over cover, and it looked like a poster promoting a sold-out show at Detroit's Cobo Hall on January 20th, 1978. Fact check, they actually played Detroit's Olympia Stadium that day. And quite frankly, they didn't have any smalls or kid sizes, so this thing looked like a gown on me, but I wore it proudly as I approached the entry gate at the Tweeter Waterfront in Camden, New Jersey on July 13th, 2004. Just to shift gears a bit from nostalgia and recollections, in retrospect, I am blessed that my first Kiss concert and concert ever was the Rock the Nation tour. By this point, Gene and Paul had cut their ties with Peter Renace, and now Eric and Tommy were respectively donning the Catman and Spaceman makeup. And while the lineup always sounded tight, even up to the end of the road tour, this early on, they were on fire. They played with such ferocity. Now, typically the set list between the reunion, Psycho Circus, and farewell tour was similar in song selection, but this time around they dusted off some live rarities like Unholy, Got to Choose, God Gave Rock and Roll to You, Making Love, and such. And to take it even a step further, they sprinkled in deep cuts like All the Way and Lover All I Can, which I can only imagine diehards lost their shit when they heard those songs being played. In the post-reunion era, the Rock the Nation tour was one of those rare situations where Kiss somewhat bypassed the familiarity of casual fans and offered something cool that gave a deep look into their back catalog while also providing all of the Kiss stage show trademarks. Now back to the show. I remember walking to the outdoor gate of the Tweeter Center, and I saw so many people dressed up as Kiss members and wearing Kiss t-shirts. Now, I had never experienced anything like this before, and I can remember for the first time ever thinking, wow, these are my people. And that is a sentiment that I still feel anytime I see someone wearing a KISS t-shirt. It's that sense of community and solidarity that brings people together. As for who went to the show with me, there was my parents, my mother's cousin, as well as her son. Now, our first stop was at the merch booth, and I'm glad to say that I still have my first concert mementos on hand in my collection to show you guys. So here is the t-shirt that I got. Features the guys in their live outfits on the front with the tour cities on the back. I'm actually surprised how well it's held up, given that it was in storage, and also the fact that I wore this weekly when I was a kid. Even when I got to middle school, I was still wearing it. Nowadays, it wouldn't look as flattering on me, but still, it's sentimental to still have. And I also got the World Domination 2003 tour program, which was the program being offered on the Aerosmith Co. headline tour. They most likely had some leftover stock, and they were definitely selling them at a discounted price, so I went ahead and got that. Always kind of threw me off that, like, I was flipping through this book, and I saw Peter Criss was in the book, but yet he wasn't on stage. I don't know, just one of those interesting things. I also picked up another amazing souvenir, perhaps better than the shirt or the program, but I'll touch on that after the show rundown. Now, the Tweeter Center in Camden is your typical summer shed venue where you have the overhead covering the first couple hundred sections, and then you have the outdoor lawn area where tickets are dirt cheap. Now, since the tickets were promo/free, that's where we sat, and we positioned ourselves right at the barrier of the lawn, just slightly to the right where center stage was. Now, sure, it was a reasonable distance, but the video screens that were hung gave us some really good close-up shots. Now, as we got to our spot, the first band that was playing was ZO2, which features Joey Casada on drums, who is a co-host on podcast Rock City, and he also played on Ace Frehley's 10,000 Volts album. Then the main opener of the night was the glam rockers Poison. Now, I knew the hits from what I had heard on the radio, plus I was familiarized with Every Rose Has Its Thorn from Pop-Up Video, which I used to watch a lot as a kid. I felt like I was almost easing into the atmosphere of the night, so I just went about myself, playing air drums and enjoying every second of what the night had to offer so far at that point. Once Poison's set was done, there was the changeover, and bam! House lights were killed, and the roar of the crowd was so deafening, and I just felt propelled as my favorite band was about to take the stage. They showed a video on screen of them walking backstage to the stage, and that battle cry came roaring over the PA. Fireworks go off, and the show was off to the races. Now, the set list was as follows: Love Gun, Deuce, Makin' Love, Lick It Up, Christine 16, Got to Choose, War Machine, I Want You, Psycho Circus, I Love It Loud, 100,000 Years, Unholy, Shout It Out Loud, I Was Made for Loving You, Detroit Rock City, God Gave Rock and Roll to You, and Rock and Roll All Night. Now, this was more or less the standard set list for the tour, and in retrospect, this was one of the best sets I had ever seen KISS perform. Odd thing to point out, but I didn't even have internet in my home back in 2004, so I didn't have the internet to see what the set list would be, so every song came as a true surprise, an element that I feel is largely lost these days, and I literally knew every single word to every song. It brought me back to when I was listening to KISS cassettes on my Fisher-Price tape deck growing up. In general, concerts are always prophesized as being good for the soul, but Paul Stanley once said it best when he says it's electric church. It brings people together, and especially a fan base that is so tight-knit like the KISS Army, you become one with the people. I can say I felt that feeling early on with this show because I remember I was just channeling my inner Ace Frehley and playing air guitar to every song, and this woman put her cowboy hat on me, and I was just lost in my element. Now, thinking about it, I'm sure a lot of people got a kick at seeing someone in my then young age bracket be so into KISS, and that feeling slowly creeped up on me as I got older and started to witness that in younger people that started going to shows as well. Now, before going to this show, I had watched the KISS Symphony DVD. and I had VHS bootlegs of shows like Houston 77 and Largo 79. So I almost knew what to expect, but it also wasn't registering that they were there on stage. I don't know if it plays into the superhero alter ego imagery with the costumes and the makeup, but in my head, they almost only existed in the forms I knew them from, whether it was CDs, cassettes, books, etc. The idea of seeing them just didn't make sense to me. As odd as it may sound, especially now as someone who's in their mid to late 20s, that feeling never escaped me, even down to the last show at the Garden and every other time before then that I had seen them live. It's not like when you go to see Styx or some other band, it's like, oh, they're there on stage in front of me. That's cool. With Kiss, to quote Gene's track from Alive 2, it was larger than life. Now, after the show was done, it was just a massive hurdle of people everywhere and bootleg shirts being sold. But we headed to this tent to pick up another souvenir that we had purchased before the show started with the shirt in the program. And this, I feel, is perhaps the ultimate concert souvenir one could obtain, and that is a 2 CD set of the show I had just seen. So for the Rock the Nation tour, Instant Live, which was a service owned by Live Nation, was on board to record the shows and sell them afterwards. There was basically a recording truck that got a feed from the soundboard along with some audience mics. And 30 minutes after the show, you can either opt to purchase the 2 CD set after the show or have it mailed out. Now, they come in these sort of standard sort of digipack style jackets, and they have transparent stickers that state, the venue, the city, as well as the date. And the discs were printed on sort of like pre-printed CDRs. And I think you could even download setlist stickers from Instant Live's website that you can just paste onto the back. Now, these were made supposedly in quantities of 500 to 750 per show, and you can still get these on Discogs for roughly $20 nowadays. Now, at the time, Kiss wasn't contractually bound to Universal, so they had the right of way to produce these sort of live albums for this tour, along with the Alive 35 and Hottest Show on Earth tours years later without any major label interference. And honestly, what a fitting souvenir to have. Sure, other similar mementos can come in the form of bootleg recordings via audio or video, but to have something at this professional capacity is amazing. These days, you have companies like Nugs.com doing this thing, and the idea of having it on CD is kind of outdated in today's terms, since you could simply obtain a digital download. But at the time, the impact of something like this must have been huge. I literally played my CD copy to death, so much that the CDs started skipping and the digipack showed signs of a lot of love, essentially. So I went ahead and purchased a second copy, which is in considerably much better shape. Since the Rock the Nation tour has a special place in my heart for being the first Kiss tour that I saw, it's great to also reminisce with some other official releases Kiss have put out from this tour. Most notably is the Rock the Nation live DVD, which was shot in Washington, D.C. and Virginia Beach, which was just under 2 weeks after the Camden show that I saw. Growing up, this was a Kiss DVD that got frequent watch time in my household. There's some behind-the-scenes footage interspersed in between tracks, but the only drawback is that it excludes some tracks like All the Way and King of the Nighttime World, but it is an absolutely solid watch. And to kind of trudge up some familiar ground, they went ahead and released the Virginia Beach show as part of their Off the Soundboard series. I'll save my thoughts on this release for a different video, but to kind of sum it up, they definitely must have done some post-production work for the DVD in regards to Paul's vocals. Listen to the two, you'll know exactly what I mean. Now, unofficially speaking, I'm kind of shocked that there aren't too many vinyl bootlegs sourced from these Instant Live releases. Now, there is the show that Kiss did in Hamburg, which was recorded by Concert Live for the Alive 35 tour in 2008, and that results in this bootleg here. So I'm not sure if maybe the demand for this period of Kiss is not as high as others, but honestly, it would be cool to see some unofficial vinyl pressings out of these shows. Maybe the Camden one. So there you guys go. That is my little recollection of the first Kiss concert I ever went to, which was also my first concert ever. Since there is an element of finality with Kiss as a touring entity, perhaps this video could be the first of a series of me talking about my Kiss concert stories. What do you guys think? Please leave a comment down below. I'd love to know. Until then, I'm going to blast this and relive every second of it. If you enjoyed this video, please go ahead, give it a like, and subscribe to the channel. See you guys in the next video, and most importantly, keep the records spinning.